Hey there everyone, Pala here, and welcome back. It's time for some World of Warships, and today I wanted to catch up on the 0.6.0 update, talk about some of the changes it brought about, because it did some very interesting things. Some things that have the community up in arms. There's people apparently just uninstalling and quitting the game because they didn't like the changes. Overall, though, I kind of like it. I think it's pretty darn good. There's some things I don't love. I don't love the one skill that everyone's quitting over, but I don't think it's made a big difference. I don't think it's made a big impact on the game, positively or negatively. It's just kind of there, and very few people are using it. So, for those of you that haven't been following the game, don't follow the game, or just want my opinion on it, I don't think there's too many of those people. Whoops. Where'd my Atlanta go? I was going to kid out the Atlanta when we do this. What has happened is, in 0.6.0, they added quite a few things, primarily commander skill tree changes. Before we go into that, though, they did create, they added in clans. That's not what I want. Where do I get the clans from? Here? Yeah, so you can now create a clan. The clans have up to 30 people. For the most part right now, all they do is when you go into the clan, you can see other people in your clan's stats. I don't actually have one, so yeah. They cost doubloons, so real world money, or you could actually earn them within game, but you have to purchase it using premium currency. 30 players. For the most part, there's not a whole lot going on with them other than you get a clan tag in front of your name. But there is talk of more like clan battles down the line, plus possibly more of a meta mode where you're conquering and taking over territories. There's been talk about this. We'll see what actually comes of it, but the first implementation of the clans came in. Everything else, for the most part, though, has been up to and has to do with the complete revamps of the captain skill trees. Let's go ahead and we're going to jump in here. Now, there's a lot of skills, so we're going to skip over that. We'll take the important ones. We'll try and focus on that, but we want to keep this thing relatively short. If I cover every skill, it's going to be a 25-minute video. So, first thing you'll notice is it's now only 4 tiers long. So you no longer need to have 5-point skills. Many of the 5-point skills have been moved up into the 4-point skill tree or completely altered into the lower points. But what this means is with a 10-point captain, you can get the high tier skills. We're looking at things like Concealment Expert, which used to be a great skill that any ship can benefit from this. 10% for destroyers, 12% for cruisers, 14% for battleships. That's good no matter what you are. Doesn't mean you would definitely take it, as there's some other really good ones in here, but this used to be 15 points to get. You can now acquire with 10 points. 15-point captains are quite rare. In fact, I don't have a single one of them. My highest captain's like 13, I think. 12, 13, yeah. Seagal's 13. Wow, what, no, that's the Eugen. Anyway, my highest captain is like 13, maybe 14 points. I never even had a 15-point captain. Now, a lot of this is my own fault, actually. When I first started playing out the game, when I'd go from tier 1 to tier 2, I would just dismiss the captain when I sold the ship. I didn't understand the real importance of keeping a captain, converting them over. I didn't understand how much it escalated once you got above about rank 10, how much it slowed down. So I probably threw away 4 or 5 ranks worth of captain skills on each line before I really figured this out and understood what was going on. So it's not like it was terrible, but it was my own mistake here. And as such, like I said, about 13, 14 is my highest skill captain. So for me, I've never seen a tier 5 captain skill. I never acquired it. Well, now you can get them pretty darn easily. All premium ships come with a rank 10 captain, so you can go all the way up to the max tier. Getting up to 14, 15 is now very doable. The captains now also max out at rank 10. And this is something we should talk about. At rank 10, or I'm sorry, I said 10, rank 19. They go all the way up to rank 19. They used to cap out at rank 18. Rank 19, after you go above rank 19, you start acquiring premium captain experience. Similar to premium ship experience, premium captain experience can be used to do all kinds of things. So you can take premium captain experience and apply it to captains in order to level them up. So you can take have a really good 19, continue to play on him, really rock with him, keep him on his ideal ship, and use the experience he has to increase other captains through the ranks. You can see here. You can also now use premium ship XP to rank up captains. The premium captain XP can be used to redistribute skills, since we don't have any here right now. Let's see, we're going to take preventive maintenance for the first time through. We can see here I can redistribute with either doubloons or premium captain XP. I don't have any, so I can't actually do that, but I could use doubloons to redistribute. I should also note, going on right now through the end of this month, January 30th, I believe, there is a discount on Captain Redistribution. Everything is 1 doubloon per skill. So this guy, if I was completely ticked up, it would cost me 11 doubloons to reset him. It's so you can practice and try all this, because there's a lot of changes going on within the Captain trees with things to do. There's also missions going on during this time period, where if you play a certain amount of missions, you can earn doubloons. So you can see here, UK Commander Training, win 7 battles with a UK Commander above, or UK ship above Tier 5, and you'll receive 20 doubloons. And then they have one for US Commander, Japanese Commander, German Commander, and so on. So you can earn doubloons in order to practice out for basically 2 full resets for each tree as you go. After you get into it, though, you'll get a pretty good understanding of where you're going to go with the different ships. Okay, let's get back to the Commander skills. So, like I said, we're now down to rank 4, the big interesting one. So let's see, what has changed? Tier 1, for the most part, is pretty much the same. Basic firing training is gone. It is now actually a Tier 3. As a change out, I believe Priority Target came into that, or Priority Target was adjusted. So Priority Target now tells you how many ships are locked onto you. So you see that little crosshair down there in the bottom right-hand corner of the symbol? You'll get that symbol in-game while you're playing, and then there'll be a number inside this crosshair telling you how many targets are looking at you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. It's okay. In fact, we'll probably come back and get this on the Atlanta being a very squishy ship. We want to know who is looking at us, who is getting ready to fire at us. Let's see. 30% risk of incapacitation of modules. Really good. We're going to take this on the Atlanta because the Atlanta, you don't want to lose your engines, you don't want to lose your rudder, and you have a lot of guns that can get knocked out pretty easily. All of those are pretty good. Other than that, let's see. The interesting one is probably direction controls, direction center for catapult aircraft. Catapult fighters, you now get 2 of them. Also, does it count spotter craft? I don't think so. I think just catapult aircraft. It does say catapult aircraft, which the spotter aircraft are catapult. Essentially what they do is 2 of them go up 180 degrees opposite of each other. So if one's at your 3 o'clock, the other one's at your 9 o'clock. It gives you twice the air coverage. So you're going to shoot down more incoming bombers, torpedo planes, whatever. You're also going to be twice as likely to spot incoming torpedoes. Twice as likely to have it circle over an island and spot a destroyer or a cruiser hiding behind an island. It's an interesting one. It's pretty cool. For 1 skill point, it's not bad. Atlanta doesn't have a catapult fighter, so there's no need for it on here. Then there's 3 skills, so evasive maneuver, dogfighting expert, and aircraft servicing expert are all carrier skills. I don't play carriers, we're not going to worry about them. Expert loader, this used to be a tier 2 skill, I think. Considering the changes of everything, you're going to see a lot more battleships running this, because there's not a whole lot on this first tier 4 battleships. Yes, 30% module incapacitation isn't bad for them, but for the most part, battleships don't lose their rudder, steering gears, that is your rudder, engines, or really your turrets too often. Some more often than others, but 30% might be too much for them, so they might go for something like this where they can swap out ammo faster, and then you have higher incoming fire alert. This is what it used to be. Any shots coming in, it'll tell you coming in. Okay, so for the Atlanta, yeah, we're going to take preventive maintenance. We will probably take our 11th point and come back down here and get priority target afterwards. Rank 2, high alert. This has not changed. 10% reload time for your damage control party. Jack of all trades has not changed. 5% reduction in consumables. This used to be tier 3, I believe. It might have even been tier 4, though. So that's been moved back down. Okay, for ships with a lot of consumables, something like the Belfast, might want to consider that. Expert marksman, this is what it exactly used to be. Faster turret rotation, small guns 2.5 degrees, 139s and below, anything over 139.7 degrees per second. Atlanta guns already turned fast enough, we don't need this. Anything under 15, 18 seconds, I don't take expert marksman on. Anything over 25, I definitely take it. It really depends on how fast the guns turn, but right now with the Atlanta, we don't need that. Torpedo acceleration, unchanged, 5% speed to the torpedoes, minus 20% range. Don't want that on the Atlanta. Our torpedoes are already really, really short. New one, smoke screen expert. Increases the radius of your smoke screen by 20%. On the surface, this seems like a destroyer skill. And a destroyer that is playing in a division or really focused on laying smoke screens for battleships and cruisers to hide in, it's not bad. It just gives you more area for those guys to hide in. But what this really seems most likely designed for is the cruisers with smoke screens, your Kutuzov, your Belfast, the Flint, those lines, your entire British line of cruisers that have smoke screens that are a lot smaller. Their deployment range is a lot smaller than the destroyers. It gives you a greater window to deploy those. You can maneuver around within your smoke screen. Also, whereas before if you're going over 12.5 kilometers, you would outrun it. Now, because it projects another 20% further forward, you can probably be going closer to about 15 kilometers and cutting speed and still stop within it without coming out the other side. It's an interesting one. Atlanta doesn't have smoke. We're not taking it. Expert rear gunner. This is what it used to be. Increases your rear gunners on your aircraft. Adrenaline rush. An interesting one. I'm trying to remember if this was in the previous game. I think it's been modified. It was, but it was like tier 4 before. 2% reload for every 1% loss in HP. So if your ship's at 75% HP, you gain 5% DPS boost. If you're at 50% HP, you gain a 10% DPS boost, 25, 15%, and so on. So it could be good. I mean, it's just a straight up DPS boost, and it is for you and increases the reload speed of all. So it's both your primary and your secondary guns that this reloads. So that could be pretty darn good for a lot of ships. And for 2 skill points, there's not a whole lot better than this, especially for something like the Atlanta. This will be what we go with. Last Stand, this is one we've seen before. If your rudder or motor engine gets knocked out, you're still able to maneuver just at a reduced speed. We're going to go Adrenaline Rush. Tier 3, things get interesting. Let me take a drink of my water here. So, Tier 3, basics to survivability. Really good battleship skill, 50% reload time, repair of fire, extinguish fire, all of that stuff. Good battleship skill, not so much with too much else. If you're burning, flooding, or whatever, you're going to have to use a repair party. Survivability expert, a good destroyer v destroyer fighting skill. More HP. Could be useful on the Atlanta, actually, because the Atlanta does get destroyed pretty quick. Torpedo expert reduces the torpedo reload time for both carriers and any ship with torpedo tubes. Emergency takeoff. Interesting new one. Carriers can now launch aircraft while burning, but it takes twice as long for them to be serviced. It's interesting. Now, generally, my experience, if you're a carrier and you're on fire and you don't have your repair skills, somebody's close enough, it's not going to matter. That twice as long time in order to get those fighters back up again aren't going to save you in most times. This is one of those skills where maybe 1 in 60, 1 in 80 battles as a carrier, this is going to make a difference that's going to help you win the game. Basic firing training. Used to be a tier 1 skill, was a great tier 1 skill, 20% AA range, plus minus 10% reload time for guns 139s and below, so a direct DPS upgrade for most destroyers. Ships like the Atlanta, direct DPS upgrade because it's only got 139s, 10% reduction. When you combine this with Adrenaline Rush, as your HP starts dropping, you're shooting 20-25% faster. That's pretty good. Now, the exact numbers, I still have got to find them because they could be, it depends on how it does the math, right? So if basic firing training, say you have 5-second reload on your gun, basic firing training is going to take that down to 4.5 seconds. Then as Adrenaline Rush comes in, if that goes down, so your HP is dropping, is Adrenaline Rush being calculated off the 4.5 seconds or the 5 seconds? Or does Adrenaline Rush set the basic firing rate and then basic firing training is calculated off the new rate based on Adrenaline Rush? Or are they both based off of the original basic firing rate? Does that make sense what I'm saying? If they're both based off the basic firing rate, they're amazingly overpowered together. But I imagine basic firing training first sets what it is, and Adrenaline Rush scales off of whatever the new one is there. It's still good, it just means where you're not losing, at 50% health, you're not firing 20% faster, you're probably firing more like 17% faster than your original rate of fire for the faster firing guns. Superintendent, unchanged, plus 1 consumable charge. Demo Expert has been moved from Tier 4 to Tier 3, has gone from 2% chance to fire to 1% chance of fire. Vigilance, 25% of torpedo tubes. We are going to go with the Atlanta basic firing training. We're going to try to get that rate of fire just as obscene as we can get it. Okay? Now, Tier 4. So this used to be many of your Tier 5 skills. There's a few new ones. Two really interesting ones. Three, kind of. Manual fire control. This is standard. Just improves the dispersion of your secondaries. You're going to look at this on your German battleships. Your Bismarck, Grober, Cursor, the GFK. Those ships over there. Fire prevention, 10% risk to fire, reduced by 10%. But the other big thing this one now does is it reduces the maximum number of places on a ship that can burn. So you have bow, stern, plus 2 superstructure areas by default, right? You have like the front half of the superstructure and the back half of the superstructure. This merges those 2 middles into one. So you can only burn bow, stern, middle. Really good for your brawling battleships. Things like your Scharnhorst, your Bismarck, anything that's going to be getting in within 10 kilometers of other targets and is going to be lighting a fire, can buy fire prevention with, say, basics of survivability, and you can really minimize how much damage you're going to take from those fires. Very interesting skill here. Inertia fuse for HE shells, or what they're calling HEAP shells. What this does is it increases the chance armor penetration of your high explosive shells by 30%. The numbers are still coming in on this. You're going to see people talking about using this in battleships. You're going to see people talking about using this in destroyers and everything. The general numbers that I've seen that seem to make sense is you want to use this on guns above 100 millimeters, but below 202s. So you want to be using this on ships like the Atlanta, like the Kutuzov, like the Belfast. Well, not the it would work on the Belfast. The Belfast does have HE. Ships like that. 202s, an additional 30% on 202 rounds, like your German line and your American line, isn't enough for them to start penetrating battleships in general. There are a few soft spots here or there where they're going to pen, but that penetration damage is going to be very inconsistent, adding 30% on top of the standard 202 rounds. However, the 202 rounds are consistent enough HE that they're going to penetrate cruiser armor without any real problem. They don't need that additional 30% to penetrate cruiser armor going forward. But your 150s, your 139s, guns like that do have trouble penetrating cruiser armor with HE. This 30% on something like the Atlanta, something like the Kutuzov, from what I've seen, what I've experienced myself, does definitely help there. So that's kind of where most people are going to go, and this is a really good skill for the Atlanta here. It does reduce your chance of fire rate by 3%. Okay? Air Supremacy, 1 fighter, 1 bomber, really good carrier skill, must-take carrier skill. Advanced firing training, 20% firing range to main battery guns, up to 130 and 20% AA defense rating. Really good for destroyers that want to get a little bit more range out there. 20% AA is always good, especially if carriers make a comeback. Manual fire control for AA just improves your AA rating. Good for American battleships and, well, anything that's really dealing with carriers. And then we come to the big skill that everyone is freaking out over. Radio location. This used to be radio position finding. They've renamed it, trying to play off a little bit how bad it is. And it's not bad. What this skill does is whatever ship is the closest to you, it puts up like a half circle, a quarter circle on your screen, pointing towards that grid square that ship's at. So generally this is going to be used to counter destroyers, especially your more stealthy destroyers, your Japanese destroyers and stuff, where you can see all the targets out in front of you. Maybe they're out in front and to your right a little bit, and this icon's pointing towards your left. Well, it gives you a pretty good idea that there's a Japanese or some type of destroyer trying to sneak by on your left-hand side that you're not ready for. The thing is, the skill only points towards the grid square. Now, with a little bit of maneuvering, if you kind of turn in and turn out, you can generally determine down to 1, maybe 2 grid squares where they're at. And if you look at the minimap, you can normally get a pretty good gauge on that. But it doesn't actually show you the ship, so you can't just shoot at it, but you can be prepared. So it allows you to intercept destroyers a little more easily. It does tell the person being detected, though, that they are detected. So you know if you're a destroyer and you're being picked up by this radio location, you know that person has you. You don't know exactly who they are, you don't know where they are, but you know someone has you located, and it allows you to maybe evade a little bit more and put somebody else closer than you are. So it does tell you that. The big thing, though, is it's a 4-point skill. It requires 10 points in the tree just to get it the first time. And there's a lot of really other good skills in here. So there are definitely some ships that this thing benefits, some destroyer hunter killers, ships like the Belfast, like the Atlanta to some extent, even ships like, say, the Kiev, which really is, if the strength of that ship is to run down the other destroyers. The Kiev could make really good use of this. But there's only some ships that are going to be using this. Most other ships are going to want Concealment Expert, HEAP. They're going to be wanting to use some points in other areas. I mean, Concealment Expert, no matter what, 10, 12, 14% reduction in your detectability is always good. Whereas this radiolocation is situationally good. And in my experience, it hasn't brought about a whole lot of change to the game. In fact, I haven't found it annoying at all. And a lot of people say, well, just because no one's using it doesn't mean it should be there. And I agree with that sentiment. If they had another really good tier 4 skill they could put in there in place of this, I'd be for it all day. The point is, I don't think this skill broke the game in any major way. I don't think this massively changed how the game is playing. I don't think it hampered the game at all. So that's radiolocation. It's an odd one. It's an interesting one that we have to keep an eye on. And then lastly, Concealment Expert, which any ship can make good use of. Reduce concealment. Not a whole lot to talk about there. For the Atlanta, if I had more skills, if I had, say, 4 more, we had 9 left over right now, I would do a combination of Advanced Firing Training plus Inertia Fuse for HE shells. Both of those combined together would be really good. Since I haven't played the Atlanta a whole lot, though, I don't have enough skills. I'm going to go for Advanced Firing Training. That 20% range for these 139s, I have a range of 11.1, so this is going to take me up to 13.4, 13.3, something like that. Let's add that in, go back, 13.3 kilometer range. That's a much more respectable range on the Atlanta. It's still not great. It's not for a tier 7 ship, but it does give me a little bit more chance to reach out there. Now I'm going to save up my next 4 skills, and eventually they will go into the Inertia Fuse, but for now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put Priority Target in there. So the video's starting to run a little bit longer than I wanted, but there's a lot of skill changes here. Overall, the skill tree has done a really good job. Every single ship now, when you spec out a captain on a ship, there's a lot of different things to take into account. There's no longer, this is your battleship build, this is your gunboat destroyer build, this is your torpedo destroyer build, this is your heavy cruiser build, your light cruiser build. Every cruiser, every destroyer, they all have their own unique traits that are going to be you're going to be taking a look at here. Some people are going to, it's also going to go into your play style. You know, for me, I'm generally not actually a big fan of both Adrenaline Rush and Basic Firing Training. Yes, combined together, if you're at 50% health, you're getting roughly 20% DPS boost. But I'm someone that, in most ships, I would rather have an additional smoke screen or an additional repair party over the 10% DPS boost that this gives me in a destroyer. I find the guns just fire fast enough that that 10% isn't generally going to make a huge difference. So I'm not a big Basic Firing Training. Now, within the Atlanta, no, it works out well. But that's why there's some really interesting different builds. Battleships have very complicated builds now, especially like the German line battleships, which used to make really good use of combinations, manual fire control, advanced firing training, because this increases the range of your secondaries. Then you want maybe like basics of survivability. There's a lot there for the German battleship lines, especially the secondary build of the German battleship lines. They're going to have to choose what ships they want, they're going to have to pick and choose a lot more. There's no longer just get everything type loadouts for those ships. It's really, it's caused some chaos, and I kind of like it. And overall, I think it's in a good place. In fact, I would say World of Warships with this patch, once everyone stopped freaking out, is in some of the best state it's been in since the game has launched. There's still problems with the carriers. The carriers themselves, when played well, just dominate, but you don't see a whole lot of them, and when played poorly, they do absolutely nothing. Carriers are very inconsistent, but that's for an entirely different discussion. I do want to talk about just carriers in particular at one point, but overall, 0.6.0 has really got me far more interested back into World of Warships after a little bit of a burnout going through the holiday special in order to unlock the Graf Spee. Where the hell's the Graf Spee? Where are you, Graf Spee? It's in here somewhere. Collar out of my hand. It's tier 6, isn't it? There it is, Graf Spee. Yeah, after unlocking this guy. So this was an award ship for playing through all of their events. But it took a lot of playing over a very focused amount of time. Kind of burned out on it. 0.6 has kind of reinvigorated that a little bit. All right, I think that about does it. I'm losing my voice now. This went a lot longer than I wanted, but man, those captain trees are complicated. There's a lot to talk about there, and we skipped over a number of skills and possible loadouts. Until next time, though, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.